Hey, this is Dustin from BB3D, and today we're going to be talking about how to import custom game maps into BB3D. A lot of times users like to create their own imagery for the role-playing games, and they'll create them in Photoshop or even paper. But what we're doing today is not talking about the creation of that map, but how to take that map and actually put it in BattleBox. So it's a very simple process. It's Assuming you know a little bit about Blender, I'll be talking about all the steps that I'm doing as I go, so you have an idea of what's happening where and just some of the sensitivities that you're going to want to keep track of. There are tutorials out there for using Blender, and as needed, if people have questions, put down in the comments below or on the forum. I can answer those as we go. And obviously link from the video to the questions that people asked at that moment. So if you do have a question, post it on the forum or in the comments below on where in the video you have the question in terms of the time, if it's at like 30 seconds or a minute 20, and I will do my best to answer them. So let's go ahead and dig in. I have Blender downloaded and installed. I'm just going to do the full screen, I think, for now. Alright, and this is Blender. Let me show you. Yep, that's Blender. This is Blender 2.70a, and this is just the fresh install. I just installed it a few minutes ago, ran it through its paces just to make sure everything was working right. But this is basically what you start out with. Now, we're going to want to get rid of a few things in here. You'll notice that I'm using my middle mouse button to pan around. On my scroll wheel to zoom. I'm going to right-click on, that's right-click, not left-click, on my camera, this triangle thing here. I'm going to hit delete and OK. Do the same thing with this dot. That's a light. Don't need that, so I'll hit delete and OK. I'm going to go and I'm going to select this cube. Now, I don't really need this cube here, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Now, this is very important. This little crosshair should still be in the center of your grid here on the bottom. So if it's not, just hit N, and where you see 3D cursor, if you right-click and reset to all default values, that'll put it in the right place. I'm going to go down to Add, and I'm going to pick Mesh. I'm going to pick a plane. Now, the image that I'm going to import is rectangular in size, and let me show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to get rid of some of these tabs really quick. Let's see. Delete this one, go back to my properties panel, bring this over here, and I'm going to turn this into a image editor. Now, you don't need to do that rearrangement step. I'm just kind of pointing out some of the particulars of this image. So let me load up the image. It's on my desktop. I've called it map. This is just an image I downloaded from the internet. I don't know who made it or if it's a copyrighted image necessarily. For the purposes of this tutorial, it doesn't really matter. But this is rectangular, and what I need to do is make sure that the size of this plane ultimately is about the same ratio as this image. Now, it's a custom-built map, and it means it's built on squares. So the easiest way to do this is to count up these squares and to know exactly how big each of these squares are. This square here, so if you look at this square right there, matches up exactly with these 3D squares. So they're going to be the same size. They're more or less an inch. So what I need to do is count up how many squares this way and how many squares this way, and make this plane exactly that big. So I've done this before earlier. This is 31 by 22. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go to my top view. That's 7 if you're using Blender on your numeric keypad. It's different from the numbers along the top. And I'm going to hit Tab. Tab lets me get into edit mode. Now, let me just squeeze this over for now. Now, with my panel here popped open, again, that's N to open this up, you'll notice that up at the top here is this thing called Transform, and then there's the median points. I'm going to want to set this to 11. So I'm going to move it up. I'll just change it to 11 on the Y. And I'm going to go to 11 on the negative as well. And these are just regular Cartesian coordinates. If you've ever done any kind of math class, it should be familiar to you. So that will be there. Now the reason I did positive 11 and negative 11 is because I'm going for the center of this map here to be in the center of my 3D space. And that's actually pretty important for BattleBox 3D. So I'm looking for the dot to be right around here. It's not going to be perfect, but it will be close. So these others are actually pretty simple as well. Currently, if we look, this is already over 1 unit. So if I need this to be 31, I actually just need to go 15 units over. And if I hold Control while I move my arrow keys, I can actually watch in this lower corner here those numbers change. So I'll do that again on this side. Now this side, since this is 31, it's not going to be 15, it's actually going to be 14. Again, we're going to watch down here. And I'm just going to move them and hold Control. Move it negative 14. Now if you look, this image and this image, this one's slightly larger, but they are the same ratio, so they should match up almost exactly. Now the easiest way to do this next step, we're going to have to import this image into Blender. I know you can see it right here, but it's just imported into the image editor, not an actual useful material. So these next steps you're going to want to follow is just exactly into the letter. The easiest thing in the world is to go up to File, User Preferences, and we're going to go to the Add-ons tab right here. Then we're going to type in the search bar Material. You should get to MATER and only have the one left. This is a materials utility that makes our life so much easier. You can do this a different way in Blender, but it's a lot harder. I recommend clicking that on like so, and you should be good to go. Once that's done, close out that box. And then what we're going to do is, again, tab back into edit mode. You should be able to select the individual vertices, for instance. And we're going to double tap A, and you should have an orange box around your model. This is the selected state. So we're going to go and hit Q. That's the Q on your keyboard. And we're going to hover over Assign Material. We're going to click on this material here. All right, now, not much should have changed as far as we can see, but that did make an important change. It applied a specific material to our model. After that, we're going to go over to our Properties panel. This is this big square right here. And next to this ball icon is a little checker box icon, little red and white checkers. We're going to click on that, and we're going to change a few settings as we go down here. First off, what we're going to do is we're going to change the type from none to image or movie. Right like that. We're going to open our image. That is going to the desktop. That's where I have saved it in this case. We're going to select our image. If you need to see your images, if you don't recognize them out of the list, you can hover up to these 4 square boxes in this button here, and it will give you a visual image of all of your images. I'm going to double click that, and now that that's loaded up, I'm going to go down to where it says mapping. It should say generated. We're going to change that to UV. If you don't know what that means right now, don't worry about it. I'm going to click on this ball slot here and just click UV map. That's not a necessary step, but I just like to make sure that I do it. And now I'm going to go into my 3D viewport, down to this little ball, should be right next to edit mode, and I'm going to click texture. Now if it's white, that's fine. We're just going to go ahead and reassign that material again using Q. And once we've done that, we should have in 3D our map. And you can rotate around that, take a look, and it looks pretty good. It is lying flat on the ground though, and we don't want that for BattleBox. We actually want it to be just up a little bit, and there's a super easy way to do that. If you're at this point, the best thing to do is to tab back into edit mode. It's right next to your Q key, and with all of your points selected, again double tap A, make sure everything's outlined in orange. If you just hit the E key, that will start an extrusion process. And we can make this as tall as we want, but I find that if you hit 0.3, that gives you a decent sized thickness for your card. All right, so that'll just be thick and ride just above the ground inside of BattleBox 3D. So, with that done, we need to check on just a few more things before we go. We want to make sure that if we click into our side view, that's 1 on the numeric keyboard, we should see a little orange dot just along the bottom of our gaming card here, our game mat. That's the center point of the model. That is the point that things will pivot around. When you click to place a model in 3D, that is where it will go. So wherever you click, that's the center of the model. You could put that in any place you want. In BattleBox 3D, for our purposes here, we want that in the center of our map, but just riding along the ground. So, with that squared away, we're going to do our our export process. Exporting to BattleBox is actually really simple. The first thing we need to do is go grab our location for our models folder. Now, the fastest way to do that is to go to your start menu and type in the words BB3D. If you're using Windows 7 or earlier, you'll see a BB3D directory, and you'll be able to see a models folder link. You'll click on that. That is the location for your models folder. If you're using Windows 8, however, it's a little bit different, and I'll show you what that looks like right here. So here we have the Windows Start menu in all its tily glory. We're going to right-click on our BattleBox 3D icon, and we're going to click Open File Location. This brings us to our program data inside of our apps, Microsoft Windows, Start Menu Program, BattleBox 3D. We're going to double-click on our model library, and we're going to right-click in the address bar right here, and we're going to copy address as text. This will give us the text location of where our models folder are. You can see I have quite a few models here already. These are some of the ones that we've been working on to add into the next version of BattleBox for your use. So that's pretty exciting in and of itself. So with my address location copied as text, I'm going to go back to Blender, and I'm going to, let me make sure, yep, start recording. Just making sure I'm capturing the desktop. This YouTube live broadcast thing is new. I'm going to go to File, Export, and I'm going to pick Collada. This is important because this is the format that BattleBox 3D imports to. It's the most open and writable one, so that's the one we picked. With that done, up where we see C, users, whatever your account is called, documents, we're going to select all of that, and we're going to paste in our location and hit enter. See, this takes me to my models folder. If you want to be clever about it, in Blender, run over the sidebar here and click add for your bookmarks, and this will just save the location so you never have to go in and find it manually again. So looking at our export Collada options, again here in the sidebar, we're going to do a couple of things. So just to be safe, we're going to click Selection Only. We're going to include material textures, and everything else should be fine as is. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to name this. Now I named my image map, so I'm going to name my model the exact same thing. This is kind of a safety net inside of BattleBox. If you name a model and a texture the same thing, capitalization and everything, they will import together. So if all else fails, this will work. So I've named my image map and my model map. I'm going to export to Collada, and it should be done. So let's go over and we'll fire up BattleBox by going to the Start menu, opening BattleBox itself. Now I'm going to uncheck Windowed, and I'm going to, no, I'll leave Windowed checked. There we go. Pick something I can just look at on the desktop. All right. I'm going to go to single player. I'm going to open up my library using tab. And I'm going to go to where my map is. And map is here at the bottom. I'm going to left click that and right click it into the world. And look at that. I have my gamepad imported into BattleBox and it's looking great. So now all I need really is playing pieces, a couple of dice. Let's see, we'll grab here's my D20. All right. We'll change the color of some of these. All right. And look at that, we're playing. You can play this with either Google Hangout online. You can use a Chromecast and a Wi-Fi keyboard and mouse to put it up on your TV at home. Or you could set this up over a multiplayer internet connection. Let's see, we'll fix my screen share. All right, so that is how you basically import models from Blender into BattleBox. Specifically, the approach that you would take for taking a grid-based game mat and import it into BattleBox using Blender. You pretty much have to. We don't have a utility yet that lets you bypass modeling package. We are working on one that we think would be a pretty simple process, but we want to be absolutely certain that it's going to work. So if you have questions, don't forget to post in the comments here when your question is in the video and obviously what the question is, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can and clarify those steps. So thank you very much, and we'll see you on the forums.